Hey guys, it's Queen Aset Heru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, pass it on to somebody else, and drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And don't forget, stick around to the end because I'm going to read two of my favorite comments from previous videos. So one of them might be your comment. So today we're going to talk about moving out of the country. I have got a lot of questions about people who live in the United States and want to move to other countries. So I promised them that I would do a video talking about it, even though I've talked about this before, but I've told them I would do a video specifically about this so people understood what is available. Number one, so if you want to leave the United States and move out of the country, the first thing you have to do is have the right mindset before I even get into the list. You're not going to go to another country and life be perfect. Life is problematic everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, there's people who are unhappy. Everywhere you go, there's people who are happy. Everywhere you go, there's unrest sometimes. Everywhere you go. Now, if you look at something called the happiness index, you can Google that. The happiness index will show you which countries people report being the happiest. And those that are highest on the list are generally the best countries to live in, according to what I've seen from the list. And the list changes as they do the surveys. But the point is that everybody everywhere has complaints about things at times. And just because you don't have one problem in a place doesn't mean you won't have a different problem. Like, for example, I live in Costa Rica. I don't deal with a lot of racism. I haven't dealt with any racism, to be honest with you. Nobody has treated me differently or acted funny or anything like that. Not to say that there isn't racism, because I think there's hatred everywhere in the world for different reasons. But let's just say it hasn't affected me the way it always affected me in the United States. And so that's great. But the mail system here leaves a lot to be desired. So I had better mail. You know, I'm an online person. So in the United States, it's so much easier to get my packages, so much faster to get my packages. Here, not so much. So there's a trade-off there. I deal with a whole lot less racism, but my buying habits have been kind of problematic because I'm waiting longer and longer to get things. So if I need something this week for a video, for example, ain't nothing happening. But Amazon will deliver it to me in Pennsylvania in 2 days. So there's a trade-off there. And that's just a very light example, you know? So anywhere that you go in the entire world, you're going to find things you don't like, is my point. So you're not going to escape the United States and go to a utopia, as some people actually believe. You're going to go to another place. You probably won't have the same issues you had before, but you may have other ones that you've never dealt with in your life. And some of them, like the mail thing, is okay. I can deal with that, you know? And some of them are not. So the first thing you have to do when you decide that you want to move someplace else, you have to start to research the countries that you're interested in. Okay? So this person asked me to give my insight on that aspect, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that part right now. First of all, the first thing you have to do is decide where you want to go. Now, I would suggest making a list of places you want to go, because that's what I did. I had a list of like 5 places. On my list was Costa Rica. On my list was New Zealand. On my list was Thailand. On my list was Costa Rica. On my list was Canada. That was the 5th one. So what I did was I started to research one country at a time. And slowly but surely, I ended up with only one country left, Costa Rica. All of them I had to cross off for a different reason. I crossed off Canada because it's freezing up there. And I'm so tired of the cold. And I can't do it. I crossed off Thailand because it's so far away. I crossed off New Zealand. Beautiful, but so far away. I wanted to be able to get back to the United States in a timely fashion if I needed to. for a funeral, a wedding, whatever, emergency, whatever. I have a huge family, so I knew things might occur that I might want to go home for. So I wanted to be able to do that. So you have to take your list of 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever and slowly go through each one. You need to know, what are the immigration laws. Some countries you can visit, but you can't stay that long. For example, in Costa Rica, I can't stay here more than 90 days until I get my temporary residency. And you apply for the temporary residency here, and then you have to wait for it to come back. And I'm only in the beginning process of doing that. So every 90 days, I gotta go someplace else and hang out, you know? So a lot of times you'll hear me, I'll tell you I'm on location, I'm here, I'm there, because the 90 days has run out and I have to go chill somewhere else for a little while. Now in Panama, which is another place that I've been to and like a lot, Panama is 6 months. So you could stay in Panama for 6 months without having to leave. And in most places, if you leave, you can come back like within a couple days or whatever the case is. So you have to know, if where you're going, what that immigration law is. Maybe you could only come once a year. So you have to know that part. And then you have to do your paperwork, obviously. Generally, you do your paperwork once you get there, but I think you can start the paperwork before you even leave. So you have to get on top of your paperwork. Once you've chosen your country, you need to do your paperwork or figure out what the process is. All right, so let's take a look at the next question. How did you know you wanted to move to Costa Rica? Like I told you guys in earlier, I have 5 on my list and I crossed all of them off. The only one that was left standing was Costa Rica. It was close. It had the perfect weather. They had a lot of American stuff, you know, which was cool because I like things like hamburgers, you know. So I knew I can get the best of both worlds, American stuff and Costa Rican stuff. So that was how I picked Costa Rica. Also, I had read about Costa Rica. It was high on people's list. A lot of people had talked about coming here, especially people of color, had talked about coming here and really enjoying it. And they talked about not feeling that pressure of the internalized racism from the Costa Ricans themselves. So I liked that concept. I was like, okay, I like that. Likewise, a lot of people talked about how beautiful it is. It is beautiful. I mean, oh my God. And a lot of people talked about how the Costa Ricans really respect nature. You know, they don't have an army. A lot of stuff they were telling me I really did like. Now, they told me a lot of stuff I didn't like too. So I had my homework. I knew both sides of the fence. One of the things that's kind of problematic is that there are a lot of people here from the States. So you're going to run across a lot of what they call gringas, which is people that are from the States. And it doesn't matter what color you are. If you're from the States, that's what they call us. And so you're going to come across a lot of those kinds of people. And to be honest with you, I didn't want that. I didn't want to be around a bunch of Americans. I would have stayed in the States if I wanted that. I wanted to be around a bunch of Central Americans, not, you know, people from the States. So I moved to a place where I live at right now and where I lived at back then. I've been here for almost 3 years off and on. And every place I've lived at has been predominantly Costa Ricans versus some of the areas that are predominantly Americans from the United States. They have areas, they call them expat communities. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Don't want to live there. Simply because it's the same thing as being in the States. You're around people with very similar mindsets. Some of them positive, some of them not. And I was leaving that. So why would I go to a little that? If I'm leaving the big that, why would I go to the little micro that? And I didn't think that made sense. And since I've been here, I've been right about that decision. I've been very right about that decision. Did you have top 3 places in mind before choosing Costa Rica? So I had 5. I recommend 5 or more, because you really want to do your homework. You want to know what are the laws in that country. You want to know, are you going to be able to stay? Are you going to be able to drive? Are you going to be able to work? You have to know all of these things before you start making plans. Did you visit before moving? Yes. I came to Costa Rica on my 40th birthday. I came one time. And I was like, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. I was like, yeah, this is me. This is me all day. And but I only came once. I came once. I did some sightseeing. I went to a club. I I ate some food. I went to hung out. Did some shopping, and it was my birthday. Like I said, it was my 40th, and I really enjoyed myself. And I just knew. I knew when we got off the plane. I was like, yeah, this is it. I felt it. And wherever you're going, you should feel that kind of a connection too. All right. How did you go about finding work? You can't work in most places. This is the thing. If you want to be able to work, you're going to have to find a place that will hire you in that country, and they will get you a work visa. If you don't have a work visa, you cannot legally work in that country unless you work for like online or something like that. You work for a country, work for the United States online. Like I know some people, they work for different companies like that, or something along those lines. You can't legally work in that country. You can't take a job. Basically, in Costa Rica, and I don't know about other countries, that's why I said you got to check the specific laws. But in Costa Rica, you cannot take a job from a Costa Rican. And I think that's fair. So if you already have a job, like there are some people who are what we call digital nomads. If you already have an online job or something like that, then you can work that out. But you cannot come into the country thinking, oh, I'm gonna get a job as a barmaid, and you're just gonna walk in. It's not gonna happen. I would suggest if you have a professional license, you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a doctor, something like that, I would suggest trying to find places that are hiring and get them to hire you, and then they will get you your work visa. That's the easiest way to do it. Don't think you're gonna go to a foreign country and find a job. And a lot of these countries pay a lot less money than you're used to making in the United States. So if you go to Colombia or someplace like that, the minimum wage is probably lower than what you're used to. So that's going to be problematic as well. So I would suggest another thing you can do. A lot of companies in the United States have factories and satellite offices and all kinds of stuff in other countries. Like for example, somebody was telling me that their company has a plant here in Costa Rica. So see if your job has some other kind of place that you can work at. One of my friends works for American Airlines, so she can pretty much work anywhere in the world that has an American Airlines. So maybe your job has international, presence. Find that out. That will be one of the easiest ways to transfer inside of your company to another company. A lot of people do that, especially when I talk to my Korean students, a lot of them do that. All right. How did you confirm Costa Rica was the right place, the right choice? I just moved here. I told you I felt it when I first came. I went home and I was like, I shouldn't have came back. When I went home, I was sitting on my bed thinking I shouldn't have came back. And I was like, okay, we're going to find out what we got to do and we're getting out of here. And a year later, I was back in Costa Rica with all my stuff, not all my stuff, but a lot of my stuff in 5 suitcases with my little girl, who's not little, with my daughter. And we just been bouncing. We have our main headquarters here, and every so often, every 90 days or so, but every 90 days or so we go somewhere. But because of the coronavirus, which actually is an awful thing, but because of the virus, they closed the borders here. So we haven't had to go anywhere. We had like that 90 days came and went, and they were like, oh, no, you can stay. And I was like, oh, thank you, Costa Ricans. Thank you so much. So they're letting us stay until the situation is handled. So if there's a national emergency, they will take care of whatever the situation is. How did you know the area you chose to move to in Costa Rica was safe? Well, basically, you can find that out on the internet. Almost everything I found out through Google. The first area I moved to was called Atenas. And what I did was I found a rental. You should always find a rental if you're going to another country. I don't recommend buying immediately because you want to go stay there and see if you like the neighborhood. Because I've moved several times, and because I was in rentals, it was easy to move. So I Googled at tennis. I found the crime rate and all that kind of stuff, and to see, was it safe enough and blah, 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 and what other people had to say about it who had stayed in the tennis. And that's what made me go there. It had a great price on Airbnb. It had amazing, ratings. I went there. Loved it there. Problem is, tennis is in the mountains. It's beautiful, but it's not near anything. It's not near anything. I'm talking about the market. It took 15 minutes just to get an Uber, for a taxi, a Uber, whatever you're trying to get, it's 15 minutes tops, and I was just like, nah, that's taking way too long for me. So I moved from there to another area called San Rafael. So again, found it on Airbnb, Googled it. Google is your friend. So that's how you'll know if an area is safe. It's the same way in the United States. If you're going to move from one state to the other one, you would probably Google it. So you just Google it. You can read all about what people say about that area. Every area has a page, it's in Spanish, and Google will translate it to English, so all that information is right there. What did you do with your furniture, house, apartment belongings? I lived in a family home. So I gave it to my brother. I gave the home to my brother. That's going to vary depending upon, what your situation is. So some people will sell. Some people will rent out their property. Some people like me will give it to a family member. It depends on what you're into. I lived in a family home. My brother was about to get married, or so I hoped, and he ended up getting married. So I just gave it to him. He needed a place to raise his family, and my family was raised. So I just moved on. My furniture, I didn't really want. It was at the point where it was time to be replaced, so I just threw it out. My belongings, I took most of my belongings with me. A lot of my belongings with me, and put the rest of them in storage. And that was that. Back in Philly. Okay, so that's where my stuff is. I just put it in storage. I took what I had to take and I put it in storage, and every time I go visit, I take some stuff from my storage, because remember, you're on an airplane, so you can only carry but so many pounds on the airplane. Now, if you're willing to pay for it, you can carry as many pounds as you want. I've seen people with 20, 30 suitcases. So it's up to you. You can actually pack as much as you can carry. That's up to you. But for me, I'm only taking 2 or 3 suitcases at a time. So every time I come back, I have more stuff. More tarot cards, more clothes. I come back with more stuff every time. How much money did you save up? This is the crazy part. I recommend you save up as much money as you possibly can, but I didn't. I paid for the Airbnb for 2 months. And I already had a job, so I knew my money would be coming in. But I paid for the Airbnb for 2 months. I paid for the plane tickets, and that was it. I came to Costa Rica. I had $700. It wasn't a big deal because I had $700. I used that on food. Went to the market, got supplies, and I got paid about 2 weeks later. So there was more money, and I just moved on. Now, personally, I would recommend you save as much as you possibly can, but I was fine. I mean, think about it. If you've already paid for your accommodations, the only thing you're going to need to pay for is transportation and, of course, supplies. So you add up how much you're going to need. I had $700. That lasted me. Matter of fact, by the time I got paid, I still had some of that money left. Because remember, I was in the mountains. I wasn't like partying and going to the bar, It was like I bought supplies. I paid for transportation. That was it. So the last question she had asked me about places that I would like. So Costa Rica, of course, was my first choice. I also like Panama and Colombia. So if you're thinking, as an African American, if you're thinking about leaving in the United States, or as a matter of fact, as anybody, because these kinds of places, there's a fly in here, and I think it wants to be seen because it keeps going over here and getting right in the camera. But as an American of any descent, if you want to be able to leave, like I said, I really like Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia. Now you're going to have to do your research, as I've stated before. Panama, I know for a fact you can stay there for 6 months. Colombia, I have been to on many occasions, and I love Colombia. Medellin is where I went the most. I went to Cartagena once. I like Cartagena too, but Cartagena is a beach town. So if you're into the beach, then Cartagena is a great spot. And then of course, Medellin. Medellin is more like, I would say, the village in New York. It's more chic, you know, it has cafes and that kind of thing. So I really enjoy Colombia. So my thing is that, in Africa, I wanted to mention Africa before I go, especially if you're African American. A lot of countries I've noticed, I've seen articles. I didn't consider it for myself because for me it's too far away. But a lot of countries in Africa are offering some type of help with the process of citizenship or dual citizenship or whatever it is they're going to be doing for African Americans to come back. So if you want to take your bloodline back to Africa, that's another good possibility. Again, you need to research the country. Ghana, I've been to Ghana. But again, you need to research the country, because I heard that Ghana was one of those countries that was very open to people coming back. And there are other ones too. So you might want to look and see, read about it, look about it, because a lot of people don't realize that Africa has cities. It's not, just some people in huts out in the middle of the Dust Bowl. They have beautiful cities and waterfalls and entertainment. And when I was in Ghana, it was gorgeous. It had a nice mix of real nature and wildlife and cities and buildings and things like that. So there was a mix of that. So you might want to look at Africa too. Africa's another place. And those are the places that I know of that, again, the happiness index mentioned. But if you Google that, you'll see. Now, underneath this video, I'm going to put a link to it said, I think it's I can't remember what the website said. I think it said the top 5 places for African Americans or something like that, but I'll put that underneath this video. Also, all my information will be underneath this video, and if you would like to get a reading, please email me, and we can even talk about in your reading which places might be best for you to go. Now let's read out my favorite comments. The Technic youngest, what is his name? Is Carl Young, and I always want to say Young, but I think it's Young. So she's the Technic youngest or youngest. I'm never going to say this right. Let me know in the comment section how to say this right. My birthday is 2/2 as well. My daddy's birthday. Okay. Both my grandmother, her son, my uncle on my dad's side all share the same birthday. It's pretty cool. Definitely. My daddy and my godfather share that birthday as well. So that is pretty cool. Must be a popular day to have a baby. Anthony Espinoza. Yup. Every time when somebody got some gossip to tell me that I see that could come bite me in the future or just completely unnecessary, I'd be like, and I feel awkward. That's my response. But if somebody gossips to me, I kind of just be like, oh, okay. And then I just move on. I just keep on, they'll be like, oh, so-and-so pregnant, and so-and-so ain't got no money, and so-and-so this, and so-and-so that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So and I just move on. I just change the subject. Like, I'm not going to sit there and gossip with you about something I don't care about. Like, come on. All right, that's that. So guys, I hope you liked this video. And for anybody who is trying to move or, figure out what you want to do, these are the tips and tricks that I do. Remember, Google is your friend. Okay? See you later, guys.